James Glassman, head economist at JPMorgan Chase Commercial Bank, is here with me today, and he's bringing to light a topic that people aren't really talking about. Jim, there's a deficit that everyone is concerned about, okay? We just went through the fiscal cliff, the first part of those negotiations, the second part on spending is to come, but the deficit is a key issue here, and you know what? You bring up two good points. There's a structural deficit and there's a cyclical deficit, and most people don't know the difference between the two. Can you explain that, and which are you more concerned about?
Yeah, you know, ask most Americans what's the problem, and they'll tell you, well, it's what'll come to mind is the $1 trillion deficits we're running today. But we economists make a very big distinction between cyclical deficits and structural deficits. Cyclical deficits are deficits that are caused when the economy stumbles. They fix themselves when the economy gets back on its feet. Structural deficits are things that need addressing because it means something fundamentally is out of whack, and it's going to get you if you don't fix it. So now here's the thing to think about. Go back, turn the clock back to 2007. 2007, before the economy went into recession. The federal deficit, what was it? Most people will tell you, oh, it must have been bad. It was about 1% of GDP. We weren't even talking about it. And that we were still financing this operation in Iraq, and we were rebuilding New Orleans. So we really had no deficit to speak of. And it's just a reminder that really the problem here is that when the economy fell into recession, the revenues dried up, the government has all these automatic stabilizer programs that kick in, spending goes up. So why it matters is because what it tells you is the cure to a cyclical deficit is to stay focused on your economy, get your economy back to full employment. Structural deficit, though, is the problem. In the U.S., you know, we don't have, today's deficit is not the problem. Our problem is what looms out there in the future. We've all kind of known about this for a while, and it's related fundamentally to government spending for health care. Government spending for health care was about 1% of GDP back in 1970. Today it's about 5.5% of GDP. The Congressional Budget Office tells us in a couple decades it's going to be about 20% of GDP. What that tells you is if we don't do anything, the size of the government is going to double. Okay. And so we got to figure out what to do. You either raise revenues or you got to try to figure out how to control the spending.
All right, so we have Congress here meeting on spending cuts just at March 1st, I believe is the date. What are they going to be focused on? Are they going to be focused on these cyclical expenses or the structural ones, the health care that they need to?
You know, there's an interesting conversation starting to creep through the political conversation. It began with Paul Ryan, because Paul Ryan is the one who said, we have to rethink our entitlement system. And what he meant by that was what everyone has known as the problem for a long time, Medicare and Medicaid spending. Mm-hmm. So my hope is, I don't really know what Congress is going to do. I don't think anybody on either side thinks this is a good time to be cutting spending by $100 billion, which is what the sequestration deal does. And my hope is, and I think there's a very good chance that in all this battle that's going on, they will figure out that it might make more sense to start nibbling away at the entitlement problem, which looms way out in the future. You don't have to do damage to the economy today. And I'll tell you, if the market knows what this problem's about, because if the market sees that out of this agreement, they decide to start making modifications to the healthcare process so that we can start to believe that they are focused on that problem and not go through draconian cuts in spending now, you'll see new energy coming in the market. The market knows what the problem is. And I'll tell you, if instead what happens is the deal says, let's just cut spending today because we got a problem, the next thought on the market's mind is going to be, oh my God, what's this going to do to the economy? We're not going to think that you are solving the problem, because we know what the elephant in the room is, this healthcare issue.
Yeah, the elephant in the room is the healthcare issue. This is going to take quite a while to resolve this issue. As you mentioned in your report, it could take decades.
Yeah.
So all eyes will be on that March 1st meeting with Congress.